right, let's start by closing our eyes if that's appropriate for you. Obviously, if you're driving, that's not a good idea, or if you're around people and you don't want to call attention to yourself. But if you can, close your eyes and relax your body and mind, and take 6 slow, deep, relaxing breaths. With every inhale, you feel more light and more peace in your body. And with every exhale, you just relax and let go of everything you do not want. And as you continue to breathe and relax, feeling better and better, we picture ourselves on top of a beautiful mountain in the center of a circular grove of trees. Inside the center of our circle, a bonfire blazes forth, and it lights us and the grove up with a sacred golden light. And we recognize that this is the light of perfect love and perfect trust, and it burns away everything that is unlike itself gently and lovingly, leaving us pure, renewed, and rejuvenated. And into this sacred circle, we now invite the presence of our Divine Father and Mother. And we ask that they join with us and lead us as we walk on the way, this magical path, that we become happier and more peaceful, more joyous, and more loving people. And thank you very much. Together we all say, blessed be. Today, I want to talk a little bit about the idea of intuition. And we hear that word thrown about quite a lot without really understanding it. So think of the word tuition. Tuition is not just payment for instruction. Tuition is instruction. So a tutor is someone who offers tuition. So intuition is obtaining instruction from within. So if you can obtain instruction from within, that means that there must be a teacher that resides within. And that's true. So within each of us is a teacher. Within each of us is a direct line to divinity, is the way I've always learned it and taught it and experienced it. It's as if we have a dual mind in many ways, and we've talked about the difference between the feminine, the masculine mind, or the deep mind, the conscious mind, those kinds of things. But there's another type of duality that exists in the mind, and that's the duality between the personality, or the self, which is a mask, and the divine self, or the higher self, which is many would argue the true self, the real self, whereas the personality is something that we've kind of created within this world in order to get by. And there's nothing wrong with your personality. There's nothing wrong with your ego, any of that. But what happens is we get the personality, or the ego mind, or the mortal mind is interested in everything that is knowable by the 5 senses. And I don't know if you realize this. I'm sure you do, but maybe you haven't pondered this. Maybe you have. But the 5 senses are not always reliable. The 5 senses can lie. We can misperceive very, very easily. We can, we can see something and assume that we know what we're seeing. For instance, if you're on a road and the road is going far off into the distance, if you were to just judge by what your eyes are telling you, it looks as though the road is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and then it disappears. And that's one of the reasons why, because of the optical illusion of a horizon, for so many centuries, people believed that the world was flat and you just fall off. So you don't want to go too far because it looks like that that you disappear and you fall off. So because they were using their senses, they misunderstood. They had no way of knowing that the world is round. They had no way of knowing that the center of the universe wasn't the Earth. Okay, so the way that the mortal mind perceives things is very self-absorbed, and it needs to be. It's understandable. We're not saying it's wrong or bad, but it is limited. So the way a teacher taught this to me once was to draw a circle on a piece of paper, and you don't have to do this. You can just do it in your mind. It illustrates the point. But he had us draw a circle on a piece of paper and then draw a little dot in the center of the circle. And the mortal mind was the dot was our consciousness, and the circle was our life, was our relationships, was our job, was our possessions, our body, our history, our story, all of that stuff. And then he would have us take an art gum eraser and we would erase the circle. And he said, now this is your higher self. That the higher self is still from the same point of view of consciousness as that point, but it doesn't perceive things limited, as it's not self-involved. It has the ability to see perfectly and to perceive perfectly. So from this ideology, the higher self is perfect. It's no less divine than anything. It's absolutely perfect. And from the point of view of this school of thought, the perfect self, or the higher self, or the true self, or the real self, the magical self is what I usually call it, knows how to do pretty much anything. So if you are looking to get out of a problem, let's say, the higher self knows the way out. It knows the answer. It's capable of giving you the answer to anything, to any problem. And it's not a matter of training the higher self to know more things, because the higher self is already without limit. We've erased that circumference, and so it's unlimited. The difference between operating from the point of view of the higher self and the personality is that the personality only knows what's based on its five senses and its memory. And you know how reliable memory is. We don't remember things as well as we think we do. We think we're pretty infallible, but we're not. I will have said something and I'll say, oh, I said blah, 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 blah. And somebody will play it back. It'll be on one of these lecture recordings. And sure enough, it was not what I said. I said something completely different. And I remembered it in another way altogether. So my point is that the mortal mind, or the personality mind, or the ego self, it's not that it's bad. It's just that it's limited. It's not capable of expansive thinking. It's not capable of problem solving, and it's definitely not where you want to go for intuition. You don't want to go to the mortal self to get taught, because it can only teach you what you've already experienced and what the senses are bringing in, what the data from the senses are. Whereas the magical self, or the higher self, or the perfect you, the real you, excuse me, I've got something going on there. has unlimited resources, because it's the part of you, the higher self or the superconscious, is if you are a proponent of reincarnation, that's the constant from life to life to life to life to life. Okay, so when you're trying to develop your intuition, what you're developing is you're not trying to get stronger from the point of view of the superconscious mind. What you're trying to do is quiet the ego mind or the personality mind down, so that it can stop offering you solutions and ideas and possibilities, and instead, during the session of intuitive input, listen only to the higher self. Now, in the book of Psalms, it's called the still small voice. In fact, that was repeated also, I think, in the New Testament. I'm no Bible scholar at all, but the still small voice within, that's what they're describing, is that voice within that's very wise. The thing about that is that what we've discovered, most of us that have done much work in the realms of intuitive thinking and intuitive learning, is that the intuitive faculties work best when the mind is calm. Because when the mind is not calm, that means that the mortal mind or the ego mind or the personality mind is in charge. And it's going to try to figure things out on its own level. So let's use an example. Let's say you have a problem financially. Let's say you've got a bill due and you don't know how it's going to get paid. So the mortal mind will start calculating and tallying and go round and around and around in circles, trying to grab at any possible idea of how to get out of this problem. And you'll notice that when the mortal mind is involved in trying to figure it out, you tend to get more and more tense and more worried and more frustrated. Well, let's think about that for a minute. What is magic? Magic is the impregnation of the deep mind with thought seeds from the conscious mind. So if you're starting to get uptight and worried and moving around in one of those vicious cycles of what do I do? Grab from any possible place I can, some idea of how to get out of this mess. What you're doing in effect is you are entrenching the problem. You're making it more substantial because you're planting those thought seeds into the deep mind to be germinated. Because remember, the deep mind, the feminine mind, the goddess self, doesn't care what you plant. She's going to be there to grow whatever you decide you're putting in there. So if you're going willy-nilly putting a bunch of worrisome thoughts into your deep mind, you're going to get more worrisome results, especially if that's something that you add a lot of emotional energy into. Because that's basic magic 101, is that it's not just your thinking, but it's your emotional thinking that places that plants the seed. So if you want to get like people that use affirmations, they go around and they say, I am now drawing into my life, the perfect mate. I am now drawing into my life the perfect mate. That's not how you plant a thought seed. That's nothing. That's just nothing. That's nothing. But if you want to use that affirmation, then you turn it out of affirmation into incantation, and you really get into it emotionally. I am now drawing into my life the perfect mate, and just, you see it and you feel it and you know it and you can feel it just viscerally. That's how you plant a seed, is emotionally. Well, if you're emotionally machinating and ruminating over your problems over and over and over again, you are also casting a spell. You're just casting a negative spell. You're cursing yourself. right? So if you notice that you're doing that, it's not that you're bad. It's not that you're being punished. It's just that you're using your mind incorrectly. You're marrying the mind and the emotions and planting a seed. So what you want to do instead is call upon your intuitive faculty. You want to call upon that higher mind, and you want to learn. You want to get a way out. The thing that it took me many years, and I've had teachers teach this stuff to me, but that doesn't mean I got it. I knew it theoretically, but it doesn't mean that I got it. But what they were always saying is that other, whatever they were calling it, that higher mind always knows the answer. No matter what the problem, it knows the way. It knows the way out of any problem. It knows the solution to any problem, no matter what. Which is great news if you can access it. Well, how do you access that? By dropping out, momentarily at least, of all of your problems. Just dropping out of it, just getting relaxed, just calming your mind and calming your body. Did you know that your body has no ability to choose for itself? It's just automatic. Your body is just automatic. And if you are tense, if you tell it to relax, it must obey you. It must obey you. If there's tension in your body, it's not that your body all by itself is being tense. It's that there's a thought energy there. There's an emotional energy. There's either your water and your air body are working together to create tension in your earth body. Basically, that's all that means. So if you use your mental faculty and your fire body, which is your willpower, to just say stop, be still, calm down, take some breaths, let go of the tension. My stomach is now relaxed. The pit in my stomach is now dissolving. My feet are relaxed, my legs are relaxed, my knees are relaxed, my thighs are relaxed, my hips are relaxed, my back is relaxed, my chest is relaxed, my shoulders are relaxed, my arms are relaxed, my face is relaxed, my neck is relaxed, my tongue is relaxed. Everything is relaxed. I'm going to take some more breaths and just let go. And just take a moment and just force yourself to use your willpower in a positive way. And that is to let go of the tension, let go of the worry, let go of the drama. Even if they're coming after you to get the money that you owe them tomorrow, it's not happening this second. Okay? So for right now, none of that stuff matters. You're just going to let go. You're going to let it go. Once you're able to do that, then the still small voice within you has a way to become heard. And just ask it. Just ask it, what do I do? Where do I go? How do I handle this? What's my way out? And you will always get a response. Now, you may not get a response in the way that you think you're going to, but you will get a response. The best time to do this is right before you drop off to sleep. If you have a big problem, relax yourself before you go to sleep and just say, as I'm going to sleep, I want my higher self to show me and to make it clear to me very easily and that what I need to do in order to get this healed. And when the sun comes up in the morning, I will have my answer. And then you just fall up to sleep. And it's good if you can have a little small phrase to focus your mind, a little mantra that you can silently say over and over as you're going into sleep, so that you're focusing your mortal mind in a way that's positive. So, for instance, if you're looking for a solution to a problem, you can just use that word, solution or answer, right? Now, the intuitive faculty also is available all throughout your day, And the way that you learn how to strengthen your relationship with your intuition is by following it is by listening to it. And a lot of people, when I talk about intuition, because being a witch or a magical person really is becoming a highly tuned intuitional instrument. We live more and more as you get more and more into this stuff, you learn how to live this way. You live intuitively more than you do, quote, rationally. And it's not that we're saying that you're going to be irrational. It's just that your behavior is going to be informed by your higher self more than by your ego self. So you're not going to be, you won't be controlled by your fears and your tensions and your worries so much. You'll be controlled more by wisdom because of your intuition. Now, so a lot of people, when I say, okay, now you need to follow your intuition, they'll say, okay, I'm going to cast a spell, and we go through the spell, and we figure out the spell, and we got the spell, and I say, okay, now once you've cast your spell, you need to listen to your intuition and follow those leads that are given to you. And very often I get a response of, I don't have intuition. I never get any kind of intuitive hunches. I don't have any psychic ability whatsoever. And I understand where you're coming from if that's what you're feeling, but that's not true. Yes, you do. Ferret says, my response is always, I have no idea, you should drink more water. Okay, good. So anyway, so the intuition is there, but how do you start to get developing a relationship with this intuitive faculty? You do it by starting small, as with everything. In any moment, just as often as you can, take a moment with whatever you're doing and just relax for a second and tune in. Just say, now what's my best choice in this moment? What's the best thing I can do here? What's my best decision? And you'll notice that one will feel more peaceful than another. A lot of times your intuition just feels like your conscience. Like, what's the right thing to do? What's the right thing to do? And you'll know very clearly what the right thing to do is. And it won't probably, especially at first, feel really witchy or wooey or mystical or magical. It's just like, oh, okay, I should fold the laundry instead of just, throwing it in a ball on my bed. Okay, that doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but if you listen to it and you follow it, you'll notice that you're on the right track. You're on that same wavelength as that intuitive part of yourself, so that when the next time comes, when you have a choice to make, you'll get another intuitive hit. And so following those little itty bitty things like, I really should call this person back rather than avoiding them, or I should really, if you notice that somebody's starting to annoy you, your intuition might tell you, to relax and don't engage, don't say anything or something like that. I mean, rather than going to your go-to, which might be to get in a fight with them or something. One thing after the next, you'll notice that as you start to do that, you want to tune in more and more frequently, because things tend to start falling into place for you. Because where you used to always come up against roadblocks and problems and issues and trauma and drama and crying and upset and anger and all that stuff, little by little, you'll notice that you're making different choices moment to moment. What are you doing? You're listening to the voice of wisdom. You're listening to your intuition. And as you start to do that and you're developing a relationship with that part of yourself, and it's not that your personality is going to go away. I mean, I have a huge personality. It's not like I'm just some automaton robot. In fact, I think I've become a more animated, more fun, more enjoyable person to be around as a result of the years of working with intuition than I was before, because I used to be kind of angry. I used to be sort of annoying in a lot of ways, in a lot of situations, which I've noticed a lot of that stuff has just fallen away just because I don't choose to go down those roads anymore. And that's just been because of moment to moment decisions and working within the intuitive realms. So then when you do get faced with one of these big giant issues, big giant problems that you don't know your way out, you can say, wait a minute, I know a way out. My ego mind doesn't. My personality doesn't know what to do. So I'm going to calm that part of my mind down. I'm going to calm my body down, and I'm going to call upon my intuition. So what's my highest thought? And you'll get a very, very clear lead. And it may not seem that big of a deal. You may not understand why that would work, but you follow it anyway. And it's things like this. Okay, so let's say you're thinking, okay, I need a drummer, and my drummer's gone, and none of the drummers that I've been auditioning are any good. And my show is like 3 days from now, and what am I going to do? And so then you just calm yourself. You get your body relaxed. You get your mind relaxed, and you call in your intuition. And your intuition says, we'll handle this. It'll be fine. You'll get your drummer. Just calm down. Everything's going to be fine. And so you think, okay, but I didn't get an actual intuitive hit, but I got a reassurance. Okay, so I'm just going to trust that. And then you move down and you get this hit to go to accept an invitation to a function that you normally would have said, no, I don't have time for this. But you get very clearly this feeling, I got to go there. And you know what's going to happen, right? You're going to meet your drummer there, right? That you would have never been open to the idea of it had you been like, I got to get my drummer, and freaking out. You would have said, I don't have time for a party. I'm not going to anything. I've got to get this handled. And you would have just, nose to the grindstone. And you might have gotten a drummer, but it wouldn't have been this drummer. It wouldn't have been so good, and it wouldn't have been done in as fun of a way. Right? Happens all the time. Stuff like that happens all the time. You do not have access to the same kind of resources that your higher self does. Your personality doesn't have access. So there are ways that things can work out that are so far beyond our understanding, our comprehension. We would have never known to do this, that, or the other thing. But by following it in moment to moment to moment, real time, you're capable of taking it one step at a time. Now, we have this thing in the craft called perfect love and perfect trust. Perfect love seems to be something people kind of respond to fairly well, even though they may not always practice it. They kind of get it, and they're like, yeah, perfect love. And they say perfect trust. They will mouth perfect trust. But when it comes to perfect trust, that's the one where people are like, I don't know. I think I can do better on my own. Thanks for the information, higher self, but I'll take this over myself, especially something important. And so they won't trust the intuitive faculty, especially if it doesn't seem to make any logical sense why they should follow it. And that's where they get in trouble, because they won't trust. They won't trust that their higher self loves them and cares for them and is intelligent. Okay? So, if somebody was talking about some religious person was saying something like, oh, well, God can't work through your religion or something. There's something ridiculous like that. And I thought to myself, well, if there is a God, I'm sure that God is at least smart enough to be able to handle your religion. And there is a God, I'm sure your religion is not so complicated that God can't work through it, whatever it is. Same thing goes with your intuitive faculty. You're not that complex as an ego. You're not that big of a deal. You're not that unique. And this is why. Not that you aren't unique. Yes, you are. There's no two snowflakes alike. There's no two flowers alike. Everybody is unique on the level of their perfect self. But when it comes to the level of their problems, not so much. You're not so much. So people, go back for a minute to the dot on the piece of paper and the circumference around it. When you're in that mindset of ego, which we are. I mean, that's how we have, that's how we have structures. That's how we kind of operate in this society in three-dimensional reality. It's not that you want to get rid of your ego at all, but when you understand, but if you think that's it, that's all there is no more to you, but that personality, that ego mind, your set of problems, your personality, your story, your history, where you grew up, your medical issues, your allergies, your this, your that, you're the other thing. If that's what you think is the totality of who you are, you're kind of screwed, because there's no way, there's nothing else for you except for self-involvement. Because the ego mind, even when you try, coming from the ego point of view, even when you try to be altruistic and kind and giving, you're still doing it from the point of self. All you care about is you, which is understandable. There's nothing wrong with that. But understand that you're then limited to all of what you think of as you. That's it.
I hear that as we can't buy that off the shelf.
What's that? I'm going to mute you. Are you trying to ask a question, or can I mute you? Okay. Okay. So if you want to find a new way of living intuitively, you've got to put all of that ego mind, the dot in the circumference, on hold for a minute, and take out your art gum eraser and erase the circumference every so often, and sit and be infinite. And you can, it doesn't matter if you want to not call it something, or if you want to call it, the goddess, or the God, or the father, or the mother, or your spirit guide, or whatever works for you is fine. It doesn't matter. Or just nothing. Just my intuitive faculties. Then you're capable of opening yourself up to possibilities that are outside of your own self-involved universe. Because if you really get back to the brass tacks, the bulk of the problems was created by you anyway. The bulk of these problems were created by you anyway. So why would you want to turn to you to fix them, the ego self? Instead, you want to turn to the you with a capital U, or the capital Y, excuse me, the big self with a capital S, because then you have access to unlimited resources. Unlimited resources. And so this is where a regular spiritual practice comes into play. Because if you have every day, if you have 2 or 3 times a day that you relax your body and relax your mind and call forth this part of yourself to become the only reality in those moments, whether it's a magical practice, whether it's a meditational practice, whether it's prayers or whatever you do, doesn't matter. Then what you are in effect doing is, if you choose to see it this way, is opening up to the intuitive part of yourself that knows everything, that can get you what you want. Okay, so that's why when we talk about goals and things like that, a lot of people, a lot of systems of spiritual development kind of agree with us on certain things, like about maybe even the higher self and the ego self, and then where they take that, and I'm not saying that they're bad, but where they take that is, therefore you should have no goals, you should have no desires, and you should just let yourself be an instrument of divine wisdom or whatever, divine will. But where we come from, at least in my tradition, it's that your true desires, the things that you really love and want to be, do, and have, actually don't come from your personality. They come from your higher self. So we're here not to just sit around and say Om all day long. We're actually here to be productive. We're here to be productive. But to be truly productive, if your ego mind is the only thing that's involved, then you are usually at best very busy, but that doesn't mean you're getting anything done. So sometimes you are busy and you don't accomplish anything of value, or you go the opposite way, you're really busy messing it up even more. Whereas as you start to live intuitively, you may have just as much, even more activity than what you did when you weren't living intuitively, but you're plugged into a wisdom that knows where you need to be, who you need to be talking to, how you need to be handling all of your goals. So there's nothing wrong with having desire. In fact, we encourage it. There's nothing wrong with wanting to get things and to be things and to do things. But the way you go about that from a magical point of view, from at least how I think of magic, is not through the day-to-day thinking that got you into the mess to begin with. So the consciousness that gets you your problems is probably not the consciousness that you want to go to get you out of the problems. The consciousness that got you into the problem to begin with is usually what you want to just say, okay, I'm going to relax and let go of this and put this away for a minute and call upon the divine part of myself that I usually, don't think about too much. And I'm going to ask it to take over, at least during this moment. And then if you ask it to continue to teach you throughout your day, then you will keep getting intuitive hits. And like I said, it's not one big thing. It's not one big thing, or it's just like, okay, now I'm going to get the numbers to the lottery and I'm going to win the $1 million today. It's not necessarily that. Not as it could be, but for most of us, it's not that. It's little moment to moment decisions that you make in a new and different way. And they seem to open up incredible amounts of opportunity, incredible amounts of energy, and transformative energy at that create new currents in your life that completely transform things. So it's no longer, what am I going to do to fix this problem, as much as there's a part of me that already knows the answer, and therefore I'm going to get rid of my addiction to the part of me that created the problem to begin with. Even if it didn't look like you created the problem, you were somewhat involved. Tension helped. I'm sure tension helped a little bit. Even if it looks like you're 100% of a victim, which you may be, but still, even if you are victimized, your higher self is still your best bet over your ego self to get you out of the problem, and to make sure that you're not victimized again in the future. Okay? So that's something to ponder, because I think a lot of times we think of intuition and we think in terms of like Madame Zelda and her crystal ball. And not that you can't do that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with, I have a crystal ball, I have magic mirrors, all that stuff is fine. There's nothing wrong with using that stuff. But it's also not necessary in order to access the intuitive faculty. Because remember, intuition, you want to be taught. And that's why we say, if you already know everything, then there's nothing to learn. Therefore, the smartest way to get to approach your intuitive self is with an empty and open mind, a child mind, or what they call beginner's mind. And I think it's Buddhism. I'm not a Buddhist or a scholar of Buddhism, but I think they call that in Buddhism beginner's mind, where it's just open. You're just open and receptive, and you have no preconceived notions as to how it's going to work out, but you have trust in the faculty that it will work. Trust, perfect trust, not just trust, but perfect trust, perfect love and perfect trust. You have perfect trust in perfect love. Now, if you're doing a spell, for instance, we know that in a witch's pyramid, we have 4 cornerstones to the witch's pyramid: faith, imagination, will, secrecy, right? And how do you know if you've got faith? Because you're no longer worried about the problem once your spell's completed. You have 100% trust, 100% faith that it's going to work out exactly perfectly for you. You have zero worry about it. So if you do a spell and you're still looking under the covers and you're still looking under the hood, trying to figure out where is it coming from, why isn't it here yet, what am I going to do, then you're screwing up your spell. So what you have to learn how to do is again, going back to the sphere of influence, is maybe you're biting off too big of a spell to begin with, or you're not working within the realms of the intuitive faculties well enough. Because if you, instead of worrying about how long, when, by what means, instead of that, if you instead go to your intuition and just say, what should I do? What's my next most perfect step? You'll get it. You'll get a very clear sense of what to do, and it'll feel peaceful. It'll feel enthusiastic. It'll feel just right. Sometimes you'll get a very clear hit. Don't do anything. Just leave it alone. Let it work itself out. Sometimes you'll get, like I said before with the drummer, you'll get this weird idea of like, accept the invitation to the party. Like that just seems really weird. Sometimes it'll seem very pragmatic. Just go and make the phone calls that you're supposed to make, or whatever. But if after your spell, if you're not 100% relaxed about it and feeling certain that everything is working out perfectly, then your faith is off. And that means that you're not trusting your intuitive faculties well enough, which all that means, all you have to do in those cases is find a way to relax. Get by yourself, relax, take a few deep breaths. There's no major magical technique here. It's just relax, let go, feel a moment of peace. You can go back to your problems later, but just for 5 minutes, you're going to relax and just know that right now you're safe, and you're going to ask. You're going to ask, please lead me, please teach me, show me, tell me what to do. And when you do that, you may get something right then, or you may just feel good for the time being. And then as you go about your day, you may be getting those intuitive hits. You may get it in a dream. You may get it right as you're waking up in the morning. Usually, I've noticed, when I ask for guidance or for an answer or to be led, as to what my perfect actions should be or not be, usually what happens for me, and I think this is true for a lot of us, is once I forget about it and go get busy doing something, it'll come to me in a flash when I'm not thinking about it. If I'm trying to force the intuition, it rarely ever comes. Rarely does it ever come. So that's why it's good to have some activities that you can always do. Go clean out your bathroom. Go take a run. Go to a yoga class. Go clean up your papers. Go do something. Do something productive or do something fun, and get into it and get your mind off of whatever your problem is. Get your mind off of the issue at hand, knowing full well that you've already done your spell. You've already done what you're supposed to do, and it's going to work out. You have faith, and then you'll always get a lead. You'll always get a lead, and also that's when the manifestations tend to come most clearly also is when you're off doing something else. Usually if I'm needing, if in my mind I'm needing a certain amount of business to come my way or something like that. If I go and just keep hitting refresh on my email, not going to happen. It's almost as if that's holding them at bay. Whereas if I go and do something and forget about it, do my spell, and then I just go forget about it and do something else and take my mind completely off it, I will come back to a full inbox full of all kinds of wonderful things, and that's just the way it works. Joseph Murphy used to say it's like toast popping out of the toaster, and it's true. If you're a pot watcher, if you tend to watch the pot, wanting it to boil, it's good for you to try to have some other activities at the ready when, for those times, so that you can just let it go. Just let it go. It's sort of like, that image that we use a lot when you're casting a spell. It's like kind of like planting a seed, and then if you're wondering how, when, where, why, what's taking so long, that's akin to going and digging it up to see if it's germinating, which means you killed it. So instead, it's best to just let it go and go do something else. But even when you're doing something else, you can right now, tonight, as soon as this call is over, you can say whatever activity you're doing, the most mundane activity, just take a moment and say, what's the best thing for me to do right now? And you'll know. It may seem normal to you. That's fine. But there's always some choice to make in any situation. There's always a choice at hand. One choice is the right choice. It's the right thing to do. It gives you the most peace. It just feels right. And the other one is oftentimes the one that is full of wishful thinking and maybe tense thoughts or revenge thoughts or angry thoughts or gossipy thoughts or all of those other things that always, take you down the wrong road. And so at any moment you can ask yourself, what's the best path for me to take? And that's your intuitive faculty right there. Intuition says, please don't do that. I say it's fine. And then disaster ensues. That's great, Mary. That's right. And don't you always, when something bad happens, just go, I knew it. I knew not to do that. Well, yeah, you did. See, this is nothing new. I'm not saying anything to you that's new. It's always like that. I remember my ex used to do that. We would always, something would happen. Something annoying thing would happen. And he would say, I knew not to do that. I had a sense not to do it. And I would say, well, why didn't you follow your sense? Why not just do it then? Because this is getting old. Every time something happens, you say you knew better. So if you know better, then do better. Right? If you know better, then do better. It's crazy. If you want to be better, you have to be better. That's just how it is. If you want things to work out for you, you need to work out for yourself. You need to work out. You need to work it out by doing the right thing. Your mind always controls your behavior. And even the behaviors that are subliminal behaviors that don't necessarily seem like they're creating any action in your life. There's little behaviors like little smirks and little eye rolling and things like that people take in, and they make judgments about you based on behaviors you don't even know you're doing. And as a result of that, you may lose a job or not get a job. You may not get the client, all because you were going down the rabbit hole of incorrect thinking rather than following your intuition. And if you follow your intuition and you keep your thoughts right, then all your behaviors start to reflect that thinking, and you always seem to be led to be in the right place at the right time. Now, we're at a point in our world where we don't have the luxury to not live intuitively anymore, especially magical people like us. We don't have the luxury to sit around and bitch and moan and whine and complain as a go-to way of being. I mean, you can do a little of it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing it occasionally. But if that's how you live your life, your intuition doesn't work that way. Your intuition doesn't whine. Your intuition doesn't talk about how bad everything is. The intuition doesn't blame. The intuition doesn't find fault. The intuition doesn't do anything other than heal and find the best way. And when you're following your intuition, what you do tends to work out for everyone, not just you. It tends to be good for everyone, not just you. And you can see it on Facebook a lot. A lot of people that that call themselves witches or druids or magic people or whatever, and all they do is whine and whine and whine and bitch and complain and whine some more and bitch and complain and whine and bitch and complain and whine and bitch and complain, and I'm not saying that they're bad. I mean, we all have that in us, but and sometimes your intuition can take on a little bit of an attitude. I mean, it is the still small voice, but occasionally, when you're lucky, it can show up a little bit more forcefully. And I remember the time when I was whining and bitching about something, my intuition said, "Knock it the fuck off. Shut up." I was like, okay. And it was basically, we don't have time for this nonsense anymore. You have got to stop that behavior now. Let's get busy. We've got lots of good stuff to take care of. And because, the hour is late. The hour is late. We have all kinds of weird stuff going on in the world right now. But if we're following our intuition, we are plugged into a power that knows the way out. If we are not following our intuition, if we're only following our personalities, then this is as good as it gets, and it probably gets worse. So let's take a moment and close our eyes if that's appropriate, and take a few deep breaths again. And relax your body, relax your mind, and call upon that part of yourself which is infinite, your higher self, your intuitive self. And ask it to start to reveal itself to you in even greater wisdom and potency. And take a moment to make an agreement with yourself that you will take some time out every day, maybe 2 or 3 times a day, if not more. It doesn't have to be long, to enter into a relationship with this part of yourself. Thank you very much, God and Goddess, for all of your blessings. And we are grateful for each other. Thank you very much. Together we say, blessed be.